Get me that signal. We need more power.
Welcome to another Voice of E board game review. I am your host, Elliott Miller, and today we're looking at Love Letter from AEG. All of the eligible young men and many of the not so young seek to woo the Princess of Tempest. Unfortunately, she's locked herself in the palace, and you must rely on others to bring your romantic letters to her. Will yours reach her first? Love Letter is a light card game for 2 to 4 players with some interesting strategy built into it. The components consist of 16 cards, some tiny red wooden blocks that represent the favor of the princess, a beautiful red cloth bag, 4 reference cards, and a small rule book. The entire game will fit into the bag when you're done playing with it, and it's very portable. The cards are good quality, glossy, with some well done artwork by Andrew Hepworth and Jeffrey Himmelman. This is the 4th game in the City-State of Tempest line that AEG has been releasing, and it is by far the least expensive and lightest game of the bunch. You can pick up a copy of Love Letter for under $10. The game was designed by Senji Kanai. Let's look at the game and see how it's played. Now, the object of the game of Love Letter is to win the heart of the Princess Annette. She's a little depressed. There's a nice backstory built into this nice little rule book that they give you. It's small, but there's a lot packed in there. The queen was arrested for high treason, but none was more heartbroken than her daughter, Princess Annette. Well, of course, what's going to cheer up the princess? A bunch of people courting her so that she can get married and find happiness. Suitors throughout the City-State of Tempest seek to ease Annette's sorrow by courting her and bringing some joy into her life. This is the nice little bag that Love Letter comes in, and here's the little courting cubes. The object is to win a round, and every time one of the players wins a round, he gets one of these courting cubes. When you have enough cubes, depending on the number of players, you win the game. If there's 4 players and you get 4 cubes, you've won, and you get the princess. Whee! Now, there are 8 different card ranks in the game. Let's look at each one of those, as each has its own little story. At rank 8 is, of course, Princess Annette herself. Hampered only by the nativity of youth, Princess Annette is elegant, charming, and beautiful. Obviously, you want the princess to carry your letter. However, she is self-conscious about matters of the heart, and if confronted, will toss your letter in the fire and deny ever seeing it. So you're trying to get these different characters on the cards to bring a letter that you wrote, a love letter, to the princess. And every time you succeed, that's when you get one of these cubes. You succeed by winning the round. You win the round by having the highest ranked card in your hand at the end of the round. After the princess comes the countess. Always on the prowl for a handsome man or juicy gossip, Wilhelmina's age and noble blood make her one of the Princess Annette's friends. While she has great influence over the princess, she makes herself scarce whenever the queen, the king or prince are around, because the queen is, of course, in prison. Dang it. This is King Arnoud IV, the undisputed ruler of Tempest, for the moment. Because of his role in the arrest of Queen Mariana, he does not rate as highly with Princess Annette as a father should. I wonder why. He hopes to work himself back into her good graces. Then we go down to her brother, the Prince Arnaud. As a social gadfly, Princess Arnaud was not as distressed over his mother's arrest as one would suppose. Since many women clamor for his attention, he hopes to help his sister find the same banal happiness by playing the matchmaker. As you can see, each card has a certain ability at the bottom. We'll see how that comes into play. Here's Handmaid Susanna. Few would trust a handmaid with a letter of importance. Fewer still understand Susanna's cleverness, or her skilled ability at playing the foolish handmaid. That the queen's confidant and loyal servant escaped any attention after the queen's arrest is a testament to her clever mind. Then there's the Baron, Baron Talus, the scion of an esteemed house that has long been a close ally of the royal family. Baron Talus has a quiet and gentle demeanor that conceals a man used to being obeyed. His suggestions are treated as if they came from the king himself. Then there's Priest Tomas. He doesn't rank very high, does he? No. Open, honest, and uplifting, Father Tomas always seeks out the opportunity to do good. With the arrest of the Queen, he is often seen about the palace, acting as confessor, counselor, and friend. And finally, there's Guard Odette. Charged with seeing to the security of the royal family, Odette follows her orders with persistence and diligence, even though her mentor is said to have drowned while fleeing arrest for complicity in the Queen's treason. That's the different ranks of cards. There are several more cards, like there's 5 copies of Guard Odette. There's 2 Prince cards. There's several Barons and like that. Now let's see how the game's actually played. The entire deck consists of 16 cards. To start a round, you shuffle the cards up, and then take one out. You don't know which one it'll be. You put it on the side there. It won't be used this round. Luckily now, each player also has this ranking of cards, how many of each card there are in the deck, and what each special ability on the cards are. There's 4 copies of this, so these come in very handy, especially when trying to develop your strategy. To start the round, let's say there's 3 players this round. 1 card, 2 card, 3 cards. And let's say this is Ennui, and he decides to go first, so he looks at his card. Ennui has the king. Well, what does Ennui do? Well, the first thing he has to do is draw another card. Now, Ennui has drawn the princess. Now, he has 2 cards, and he has to discard one of the cards. So, let's see what. If you discard this card, you are out of the round. So he doesn't want to get rid of the princess. The king says, trade hands with another player of your choice. Well, Ennui is in a bad situation here. So, his only real choice is to discard the king in front of him. Now, when you discard a card, you have to follow the instructions at the bottom of the card. So this goes back in his hand, but he has to trade hands with another player. So, he decides to trade with Gregor. He takes Gregor's card and gives Gregor the winning hand of the princess, basically. Let's see what he got in return. Guard Odette! Oh, no. That is the end of Ennui's turn. Now it's Gregor's turn. He realizes, hey, I've got the princess. Sweet. Now he has to draw a card, and he draws a handmaiden. Until your next turn, ignore all effects from other players' cards. Sweet, he thinks. He keeps the princess and discards the handmaiden in front of him. Now, none of the other effects of the other players will affect him until his next turn. And now it's Cookie's turn. Cookie picks up his card and looks. He's got the Countess. If you have this card and the king or prince is in your hand, you must discard this card. Well, he has to draw a card. Let's see what he gets. He gets Priest Tomas. Well, he's obviously going to keep the Countess, so he'll set that down over there. And he's going to discard the priest in front of him. You keep separate discard piles for each player so that it may be knowledge you need later on in the game. Priest Tomas' card says, look at another player's hand. So Gregor decides, Cookie decides to look at Ennui's hand. And he sees that Ennui has just a lowly guard. And he laughs, ha ha ha, because I have the Countess. And then it's back to Ennui's turn. As you can see, it goes around, turn by turn. You draw a card, you pick one that you keep, and one that you throw away. Some of the other abilities do lead to interesting things. You can figure out what another person has by using, say, the priest, Tomas, to see what another player has. You can, if you figure out that, say, if you're able to figure out that Gregor has the princess, You can use the prince to choose any player, including yourself, to discard his or her hand and draw a new card. Very interesting, don't you think? The Baron. You and another player secretly compare hands. The player with the lower value is out of the round. That can come in very handy, or it can doom you. The Guard. Name a non-guard card and choose another player. If that player has that card, he or she is out of the round. If you can figure out what another player has, you can knock them out of the round completely. And it is possible to do with some of the other cards. For example, by looking at their hand with the Baron. Or looking at their hand with the Priest. Or it's even possible to use the Countess, I believe. If you have this card and the King or Prince in your hand, you must discard this card. So if somebody discards the Countess, you can pretty much figure they have the King or the Prince in their hand already. Or maybe they could fool you. There's a lot of neat, interesting things in there. Now, if you make it through, once the cards are all gone, each player flips up their card. Each player who's left in the round flips up their card. And whoever has the highest ranking card gets their letter to the princess and gets one of the cubes. And then you shuffle the cards. You go on to the next round. And this continues until one player gets enough cubes to win the game. That's the entire game. As you can see, Love Letter is a simple game to learn, and the cards offer some interesting strategic choices. The first player to earn enough tokens based on the number of players wins the game. If you can figure out what your opponents are holding, you'll have a distinct advantage, and that's the strategy for winning in Love Letter. This is a fair game. I enjoyed playing. I wouldn't pull it out with a group of my gamer friends, but for a fun alternative to playing a card game after dinner with my wife and the kids or another couple, it's a good time. It takes less than a half an hour to play a full game, and it has a certain air de romance when you play with couples. Personally, I've been watching The Tudors on Netflix lately, and I couldn't help but think how this game would fit in perfectly with the theme of the different noble houses trying to gain the attention of King Henry for their daughters, so that he would marry them and make them queen. Of course, the losers would have their heads chopped off. A Game of Thrones theme would fit in nicely as well, as the players battle for the crown. But I'm not saying the theme as it is not well suited for the game. I will say it's a nice light game that would fit well with the non-gamer couples you know. It plays quickly, and it might encourage your friends to try other games that you have. And look, here it is. Fits in this nice little bag. I don't know if I'd be walking around Gen Con carrying this nice little bag and saying, hey guys, play some Love Letter. But, you know, my wife liked it, and other couples that we played with liked it, so that's all I really need, you know. That's it for this review of Love Letter from AEG. Stay tuned for more reviews and news from the Voice of E. Why don't you subscribe to the channel? The button is right here. Then you'll never miss an episode. Check out the Voice of E on Facebook, on Twitter, Pinterest, and Tumblr. We're all over the place. There's also our website at www.thevoiceofe.com. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep your mind free.